I do understand the criticism. I do understand the statement that, like, you know, it's not going to be the best way to build maximum strength. It's not going to be the best way to build maximum power.
Mm-hmm.
But then the question becomes, does it have to be the sole part of your training? And like, it's one of those things where if all you do is ATG work,
yep,
you're probably going to be limited in terms of maximum strength, maximum force development. If all you do is Joel Seedeman style eccentric isometrics, you're probably going to be limited in terms of mobility and capacity to move through full range. That's on.
We are on, and we are both sounding sexy. And do you know what's different about this week? Is that's within my grasp.
Do you know what else is different? I've not put the light on.
Almost, guys. The thing is, like, Zab is literally responsible for the entire setup of this podcast. I do nothing. I'm just a little trained chimp that he's conscripted to come and talk every now and then.
That's right. You made all the right noises when we had coffee.
I did.
And, you know, bring positive energy every single time. You just reminded us both that we sounded sexy, which is important.
It is important.
And yeah, I am responsible for everything and fuck quite a lot up every week. But not this week. We're looking good. The
percentage of things you're responsible for to things you fuck up is actually quite good.
Yeah, I'll take that.
My percentage of things I'm responsible for to things I fuck up is excellent because I'm responsible for nothing.
So it's an infinite.
It's negative.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Right. First question of the day: have you listened to The Death of Slim Shady yet?
Yes,
you have.
Not the whole way through. I got about. I'm on to the last 2 tracks.
Okay, that's a fair commitment. It is like a 19-track album.
Pretty good so far.
It's pretty.
Are we allowed to say that without getting cancelled?
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to cancel Eminem. Like I said to you before, we're in this like odd purgatory where like 50% of the population is okay with him, and 50% of the population is not okay with him, and it just kind of balances out.
It does feel like the vast majority of the album is taking the piss out of people that are anti-woke.
Yeah, but I think that's the point, right?
Yeah, no, but
that's what he always was. Like even back in the day, like it was just he was taking the piss out of our parents, who were like anti whatever he was saying, or like anti woke.
Yeah,
I don't even think they're anti woke. I don't know. Who fucking knows? I mean, it's Slim Shady. It's great. I was gonna try and like base the joke off it today, but I figured the chances of it landing were slim.
That one felt like one that you actually came up with yourself. No, that's the wrong one. There we go.
There we go.
That's the right one.
You just got to remember to add that extra audio track to the recording when you splice them together. Otherwise, we're just going to be there going, "That was great."
I might just cut the bit where I press the buttons, but you deserved the little drum roll.
Fair.
So, I'm Zab.
I'm Matt.
And this is the Performance Proposition. And today we are going to talk about Knees Over Toes Guy and Dr. Joel Seedeman. Dr. Joel Seedeman.
Yeah, great name.
AHP. Is it AHP? I don't even know what he's got after his name now. I don't even know what the letters stand for. They mean something to somebody somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you could do an alphabet song out of them. Do you know what I mean?
You probably could. And we're basically just going to talk about the collective madness and genius of both, right?
Yeah.
Like, because there's
slightly more madness on one side, in my opinion, than genius. And there's not really a lot of genius in either. They're just solid ideas. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yep.
Do you want to introduce Joel Seedeman? And I'll introduce Knees Over Toes Guy.
This is where they just turn up in the scene and both of us decide not to mock anybody. Yeah. So Dr. Joel Seedeman is a doctor of something. He's a fitness influencer. He believes in the idea of eccentric isometrics to 90 degrees. No one really fully understands what eccentric isometric means. But seeing as they're both two completely disparate things. But he promotes this idea that realistically we don't want to go below 90 degrees in a squat. We want to kind of optimize our position so we can maximize force output when we're doing any one of our lifts. And then alongside all of that, oh God, you're doing that thing where you move the mics around and it just creates a lovely echo in my ears.
Just anything I could do to throw you off.
I mean, today it's not hard. I am so tired. So
Continue.
Yeah. So he promotes loads of kind of funky exercises, lots of stuff around perturbation work. So he'll have people in a deadlift position with some kind of like head brace on, and he'll be hitting them in the head to try and create some kind of lateral deviation through his spine, making them brace and making them correct for movements and forces that are outside of their control.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting stuff in what he does. Lots of stuff that is just basic science.
Couldn't resist.
We're going to fall out. We're
No,
going to fall out before the end of this series. But yeah, so he puts out a load of things that have fundamentally got a little bit of good science behind them, and then lots of other weird things that push people over the edge and are probably just done for the sake of controversy. The thing that I really don't like about what he says is the whole idea around you shouldn't go below 90 degrees and you shouldn't move outside of these ranges. And it's that whole mentality that kind of seems to be almost necessary within the fitfluencer space.
Yeah.
Of this is the way. Come with me, I am enlightened, and I will guide you to greatness. Yeah.
Very Mandalorian of him.
I mean, but
it wouldn't surprise me if his next video someone had a Mandalorian style helmet on that they weren't allowed to remove because it increased the proprioceptive.
I mean, it would probably be actually really useful for all those times when he hits them in the head. It might protect them a little bit.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But we can't criticize him because he is getting amazing results with a lot of very, very high level athletes and a lot of,
I mean,
we can't criticize him. Yeah.
Getting results with high level athletes who are genetically gifted. Bravo. I'm hoping the sound of that very sarcastic.
Go a little higher. Just a little higher. There we go. And then we'll just edit that in over the other bit the way you're clapping down here. Yeah.
I mean, the thing, to be honest with you, where he lost me, the exact point that he lost me is when he said, "This is how God intended our bodies to move." That's the exact point I can highlight where he lost me. Because I'm like, okay, cool.
Why? Just because of the fact it's so massive.
Because he's just decided, yeah.
Right,
he's just gone.
Like, okay, right. Yeah. No, I mean, you're not going to go down the route of like, if God intended us to move in just one way, he wouldn't have given us the opportunity to move in others? Or are you just like, why are we going to let someone tell us what God intended?
I mean, also, if you look at some places in the world where toilets are holes in the floor,
yep,
a lot of people in deep squats taking a shit. So if we were really intended to only move to 90 degrees, it wouldn't be so difficult. You ever tried to take a shit at 90 degrees?
I mean, I'm pretty sure most toilets are above 90 degrees for you.
Mr. Long Shins over here.
Exactly.
Short Shins?
You're Mr. Short Shins. I'm
Short
Mr. Long Shins.
Yeah, sweet.
Great. Okay,
but
so
that's why I have a
brief
potty
introduction
stool.
to. Oh, you've got one of those squatty potties.
Well, I call it. I have an
stool.
IKEA bin that I put my feet up on.
Nice.
Not that anyone needed to hear this.
I mean, excellent tip, excellent life hack right there from Big Matt. So we've introduced Joel Seedeman. Do you want to talk a little bit more about him, or do we want to go into knee over toes guy, or I feel like we should just basically cover Joel Seedeman first and then go from there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the main messages that Joel Seedeman kind of brings up?
I mean, so if I'm not mistaken in my interpretation of what he's trying to do, a lot of his stuff is based on, like you say, like very much isometric work. He says eccentric isometrics.
Yeah.
It's isometrics. Mostly, right? And it's a lot about stabilization. It's very similar to that functional patterns methodology of like learning to stabilize, control within range. And he's all talking about, athletic movements. We don't pass parallel on athletic movements, which is sort of true.
Yeah.
If you're looking at sprinters, if you're looking at like most people doing athletics, they tend to stay above 90. Hence why you have like a whole band of research in sprinting looking at
quarter
squats, half squats,
Yeah.
in terms of are they superior for eliciting a performance result. So in that sense, a lot of what he's saying would seem to make sense on the surface. My understanding of sport-specific training is that you don't actually want it to look too similar to the sport, because as we've discussed before on the podcast, you're already doing that in your sport. So you don't need to add loads of extra volume in those ranges. If anything, the benefit that you're going to get is outside of those ranges. For the one or two times, like you look at a position that a baseball player ends up in when they're pitching, it's ridiculous. Like the amount of hip flexion, it's definitely below 90 degrees. Like the shoulder position all the way back, like you freeze frame it as they're about to pitch, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that they were elastic somehow. So those positions do exist in sport.
Yeah.
Just they're rarer than the positions that he talks about training.
Yeah. Okay. No, I can see that. I think one of the things. So the positive. I'll talk about the positives of Joel Seedeman. I'll sing his praises.
Okay.
And then
I'm happy for you to take that.
We can both kind of. Yeah. I mean, it's a fun gauntlet to take. But realistically, when you think about where you're able to produce the most force, and as a result, where you're going to elicit the biggest amount of strength gains, it's going to be over reduced ranges of motion. So when you look at people doing squats and only coming down to 90 degrees, that's still probably a greater range of motion than you're going to see in most sporting situations at the point where you're going to try and create force. All right, it's different when you're talking about pitching and you're talking about getting yourself into that at the end point of a pitch when you're in below 90 degrees in terms of hip flexion. At that point, they're not trying to create force anymore. They're not trying to pull themselves out of that position. They're actually just moving. They've elicited the force earlier in the range. They're throwing themselves forward and they're moving through space. Yeah. So at that point, they're not necessarily trying to create maximum force. They are decelerating, which is a different concept. But when you look at someone who is jumping, so you look at like a basketball player jumping, they're not coming to 90 degrees in the knee and hip. They're coming a little bit above that. Yeah. If you're training down to 90 degrees, you're actually working in a range that you wouldn't normally be, like that is beyond that which you would normally be in within the sport. And if you go below 90 degrees, you're probably going to have to drop the amount of weight that you're putting on the bar. Yep. So you're minimizing the amount of force output that you're going to be developing with a squat or with a deadlift. Like realistically, you look at like the mid-thigh pull as one of the strongest exercises that you could do. Yep. The exercise that you're going to produce the biggest amount of force on, and you're not moving down to the bottom of a deadlift. You're moving from the middle of the thigh, and that's where you're going to maximize force output in triple extension for jumping sports. So there is a reason and a rationale for training in that range. And if you are looking to maximize power output, maximize force output, it's probably not a bad thing to minimize the range slightly. Like, and as much as we say like, oh, well, you're already getting that within your sport. You're already moving within that range within your sport. Actually, there are multiple attributes that you could be trying to train, right? If we're looking at training and developing mobility, you don't want to mirror your sport. Yep. But if you're looking at maximizing force output for a movement associated with your sport, the goal is to increase the intensity at which you're performing that movement, and doing a exercise with reduced range of motion, but as a result, maximizing the amount of force output is going to lead to bigger increases in strength and potential power output. So that when you're then going into your sporting setting, you're going to be able to improve the power output, and you're training super maximally to what you would be doing within a sporting setting. So there's benefit there. The eccentric side of things and isometric side of things, I think, are very useful for developing kind of tendon and fascia strength and structural strength, which if you look into the benefit of tendons and fascia as force amplifiers, it's a good thing to look at.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest positive of his method of training, right? Is very good for increasing stiffness.
Yep.
He probably produces athletes that are very good at being stiff on the pitch, and therefore producing a lot of elastic energy that requires less active production of force.
Yep.
And therefore is more energy
efficient, more movement. so great movement efficiency is going to come from that.
Yeah.
And the stuff around like the perturbations, I think there is a benefit to that in terms of improving proprioception, improving your ability to detect a change in position, and react to it, respond to it, and still manage to produce force as efficiently as you can in the direction that you're trying to travel.
Yeah.
So there are the kind of main positives.
Yeah.
I think one of the videos we were kind of mocking before the start is the Joel Seedeman one, where he was just swinging his arms around like a crazy person and talking about the fact that if you don't have a bar or you don't have weights, you could just do that. And I think he gets a lot of hate for that video, which I think is kind of a little bit misguided again.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's like, you're not going to maximize strength, like by any means, by doing that. But if you took a similar exercise, you took like arm drives for sprinters, like someone standing on the spot and swinging their arms around as fast as possible in a sprint action has really good carryover towards maximum sprint speed, because the fact you're improving the neurological capacity to create movement quickly, and therefore improving speed. Doing the same with, I don't know what you'd call it in terms of that punching exercise, is going to increase speed capacity around the shoulder joint, speed of horizontal adduction of the shoulder, speed of tricep extension. So all of that could carry over positively towards sport. Yeah. But it does look ridiculous, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that anyone start doing it just when they don't need to necessarily get that benefit.
Yeah, kind of like what I look like when I'm warming up at the moment.
You look like an absolute champ.
I look like a hairy bald T-Rex. That's what I look like. I
still think the salmon line is the one to go with. Like whenever you do your plyometrics, you look athletic as hell. You look like a very, very springy
salmon.
But yeah, you jump like a salmon. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's wonderful to watch. So now we can go into destroying Joel Seedeman for all the things that he stands against.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think my biggest problem with Joel Seedeman, and it's funny that a lot of people who are in, I mean, so we talked last week with Sam about glass backs, and one of the things that came out of it was movement freedom, right? Move how you want to move. Like, you shouldn't be afraid of movement. And a lot of what he talks about is like below 90 degrees is dangerous. Yeah. You shouldn't do it. It's bad for your knees. It's bad for your hips. It's not, it's going to injure you. It's going to, like, athletes that do that are the ones that get injured. Uh-huh. And I think that ties like really nicely into what Sam was talking about with movement freedom, in that what he's essentially doing is fear mongering, like moving beyond the ranges that he's talking about training. And like there's we know that there's so much benefit in going below parallel. Yep. We know that there's evidence that strength transfers up but doesn't transfer down. Mm-hmm. So if you train to parallel, you get strong to parallel.
But you won't get strong.
But you stay weak below parallel.
Yeah. Whereas if you train below parallel, you will get strong the whole way through the movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the one thing that does kind of hold true slightly about that statement from him is the whole thing that if we accept that you're weaker below parallel, and that you're putting more pressure on the structures of your joints. Yep. In those more compromised positions, you can't load as heavy.
I mean,
as safely. But like, it's just that thing. That's just a completely logical statement. Like, it's just.
So we should all train back rack holds.
Yeah.
Because we can load them up way heavier than we can quarter squat. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just do that?
Yep. Why don't we just do yielding isometrics, or where you aren't moving at all and therefore you're completely safe and you're just looking to maximize the amount of tension you can create in your muscles.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. We fixed it. We fixed sport.
We fixed
fitness. Just yielding isometrics at full hip and leg extension. No risk of injury.
Just off.
Just off.
Soft knees.
Soft knees.
Soft hips, soft ankles.
Yeah. So and there you go. Everyone will be more athletic as a result, right?
I mean, I feel like we should do it for a month and see what happens. So like basically, realistically, the thing that is bad and negative about Joel Seedeman is the fact that he says that you shouldn't do anything beyond what he does, and it's that whole thing of the second you start demonizing any other modality of fitness, you minimize the movement towards the poles that those modalities of fitness will promote. So
Yeah.
if you're not training below 90 degrees, your mobility is going to suffer because you're not pushing your mobility as far as you possibly could.
Yeah.
Like,
well, your body's lazy, right? Your body is an incredible adaptive machine, but it's lazy.
mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't have to adapt, it will be like, cool, I'll just stay in this specific area that you're asking me to work.
But if it doesn't even get pushed in an area, it won't just stay there. It will regress.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. I don't need that function anymore. I'll stop.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, if you're training to 90, it's like, okay, cool. We only need to be strong in 90. We're going to forget about below 90. We're going to forget about everything outside of that. It doesn't exist because you're not asking me to do any of that. And then, like I say, when you find yourself that 1-2 times below 90, you're fucked. Because, like you say, you've produced loads of force, and then you accidentally end up below 90, and you're like, I now have to absorb all of this force in an area of muscles that have no idea what they're doing. And
indeed,
that's going to happen, which leads us really nicely into the antithesis to Joel Seedeman, which is knees over toes. I don't actually know his real name.
I don't think anyone knows his real name.
Okay. Con. I'm just going to call him Con.
You're going to call him Con?
No, not Con. That's knees over. Well, knees is spelled with a K, right?
Yeah, it's more
Cot.
Yeah.
The thing is, my brain was just going, you've got to have an N in there because the word
Peterson,
knees is there.
Is it Peterson? Is his son in Peterson?
I have no idea. We're going to call him Cot. So Cot.
I keep thinking Jordan Peterson though, and I don't want to call him that because screw that
guy. His whole modality is, and again, it's kind of funny, like how different factions of the fitness industry respond to different people. Because obviously, like, you've got those people out there who are calling Joel Seedeman out.
Yeah.
Are the same people out there calling knees over toes guy out, saying, "Oh, you're chatting shit," and it's like, but he's actually promoting. Like, the difference between Joel Seedeman and knees over toes guy for me is he doesn't tell people not to do things. He's like, I think we should just go all the way right to the end and compromise load. So it's kind of the complete opposite, right? So like knees over toes guy, for those of you who don't know, I probably should have introduced this first. His whole methodology is get your knees as far over your toes as possible, get into as much range in the joints and train them in maximum lengthened positions. So you might be familiar with the ATG split squat. Like he's quite keen on the Nordic curls. He's quite keen on dead hanging, backwards walking, that sorts of stuff. So stuff where we're working literally right at the end ranges of those joints. And his methodology is based off the idea, like I said before, if we train those weak positions that we end up in, then we get transfer up the chain, we become more athletic. I think his whole thing was started because he got loads of knee surgeries, and he was like, I can rehab this and not need surgery anymore. And was relatively successful. We don't know how many peptides were used in the making of this video, but
even that though, it's the whole thing though of like the way that he trains, by putting yourself in those compromised positions, by training deceleration, you're applying a greater amount of eccentric load. You're promoting muscular damage as a stimulus. And in doing that, you're going to naturally promote the development of more connective tissue, more tendon strength, and that's going to lead to you being more resilient and more robust. So it makes sense. Like, everything he talks about makes sense. The thing that's like slightly frustrating about knees over toes guy is the fact that it's not new. Like, everyone spoke about knees over toes guy, so he was bringing out these incredible new foundational exercises and ideas and concepts that weren't being discussed in the fitness industry before. And it's like, well, when I was 14 years old, I was working with a guy called Pete Faulkner as a strength coach for the Bristol Flyers basketball team. And he was talking about the fact that actually you should be going knees over toes. And that's 19 years ago.
You look back to the late, great Poliquin, and you take a look back at some of the exercises that he was advocating, you're like, oh, they're just the same as knees over toes guy.
The Poliquin step up,
and they're just done slightly differently. And like he's
downhill walking, backwards walking, like all of that sort of stuff. None of that is actually
None of it's new.
novel.
No, but he's done an incredible job of attaching new names to things that have kind of existed already and been like an ATG split squat, for example. Like, what does ATG, what does arse to grass split squat even mean?
I thought it was Athletic Truth Group.
Is it?
Yeah, ATG is Athletic Truth Group.
I always thought it was arse to grass.
No. I'm pretty sure it's his thing, because if you like go into his website, it's the Athletic Truth Group website.
That's blown my mind.
I know.
There you go.
So like you say, that's fine. We don't need that camera. That will
Just
hopefully save a video. So no, like fundamentally, like there's nothing new about what he does, but what he's promoting is very good. One of the big things that he gets criticized for is that a lot of the exercises are things you can't load. So like people are coming out and saying, "Oh, there's no point in doing tip raises. You can't load tip raises," as though there's no challenge to a tib raise. So like when you look at the exercise, like you can't really put much weight on your feet. You can, because they've invented new tools that allow you to load the exercise and use like monkey feet or one of their tib raise bars. Yeah. But even without those, you can move your feet away from the wall to increase the amount of resistance. Yeah. You can go onto a single leg to increase the resistance. Yeah. So there's like and there is still a challenge. Like if you're struggling to do 10 reps, 15 reps, 20 reps of the exercise from a strength perspective, then it's still challenging enough to promote some level of adaptation. Yeah.
And mate, like this is what pisses me off about bodyweight movements and like the image that they have, or not pisses me off about bodyweight movements, pisses me off about people's attitude to bodyweight movements, as if like doing something at bodyweight is really, 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 really easy. Yeah. And you're like, dude, I weigh 90 kilos. Mm-hmm. Like imagine doing some of the exercises that you do in a gym that you can load up heavy with 90 kilos. Like how many exercises do you realistically think you could do in the gym other than the like 5 core compounds with 90 kilos? Very, very few. And obviously it's not the same.
I reckon I've got lat raises.
Eyebrows.
Yeah, that's all.
When we come back next week, Zab will be missing all of his eyebrows.
No, I'm just going to do 90 kilos over the course of 10 reps. So 9 kilos each hand.
I like it.
Maths.
Quick maths. But yeah, basically, like I know it's not the same. Like when you're doing a tib raise, you're not moving 90 kilos exactly, but you're still moving a significant portion of your body weight. And like you say, when your feet get further away from the wall, you move more of your body weight. Mm-hmm. Like if you're doing a press up, you're still doing a press up with like 50, 60 kilos probably if you weigh 90. Yeah. So
you can adjust your foot angle, so you put more weight on your arms as well. There's like so many things you can do to enhance bodyweight exercises. Like, and it's there are so many drills which they're like, oh well, there's not very much point in you do. The world of bodybuilding is like, oh, there's not much point in you doing it because you can't load it particularly heavy. But then there are other drills like isolation exercises that bodybuilders would be all over doing in terms of like lat raises that you can't really go that heavy on. Yeah.
Well, you can go less heavy than the load that you're taking in other movements, right? Yeah. But I mean, I think that's a key distinguisher there is what you said, the world of bodybuilding. Yeah. Or the world of like, a lot of the fitness industry these days has become obsessed with this idea that if it's not building muscle, it's not valuable. Mm-hmm. And if it's not stimulating some sort of muscular adaptation, like from a growth perspective, it's not valuable. And it's like, most people don't need to like always be growing muscle mass. They don't need like an exponential amount of muscle mass. They don't need to be training like that. No. Most people in the gym probably need something similar to a knees over. Like we were talking about Pilates the other week. If you're really health focused, you're not doing most of what like we're doing in the gym because it's really destructive to your body and it's battering our joints and battering our cardiovascular system and things like that. Yeah. Like it's not that healthy, but we enjoy it and we have fun. Yeah. And I like being strong and you like being strong and we like being athletic. If I was going to train for health, I'd probably do some light cardio and, you know, Pilates and a little bit of ATG and kind of make sure I've got enough muscle mass that it doesn't atrophy away and I end up like really, you know, like little stick legs by the time I'm older. But just because it's not building muscle doesn't mean it's not valuable.
Yeah. We're good. I'm panicking because that camera's cut out. I'm like, is everything else still working?
Is everything working?
So the other side of it, like the whole thing around like the knee over toe split squat, people saying, oh, you can't really load the knee over toe split squat. It's like, no, you can't load it as much as you would load a split squat or, some kind of stabilized variation. But then when it comes to like hypertrophy training, like the goal is to create mechanical overload. Mm-hmm. So create enough mechanical tension that it exceeds previous levels of mechanical tension and therefore encourages muscle growth and muscle development.
Yeah.
If by moving into that end range, presenting yourself in like to more compromised positions and trying to load in those more compromised positions, you're creating a decent amount of mechanical tension. You can then continue to overload that by getting stronger in that position, and as a result, promote mechanical overload.
Yep.
And as a result, promote muscle growth.
Yeah. And if you can even manage to load it 10, 15, 20 kilos above body weight, you're putting yourself in a position where it doesn't matter what position you end up in any sort of athletic pursuit, you've got the strength to exceed your body weight in those really compromised positions. And that is so valuable. That is so valuable.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing the ATG split squat to be really fucking athletic. I'm doing the ATG split squat to give me a greater movement capacity and a greater control and strength at the end of my range of motion.
Yeah.
To allow me to then move in a way where I don't have to move with fear about ending up in certain positions, because I know that like if my knee ends up 50 meters over my toe, they're strong enough. Like I was doing some sissy squats the other day on top of 3 15 plates, touching my knees to the floor. Absolutely fine.
That's outrageous.
But it didn't start there.
No, it started. Yeah, I know. I do understand the criticism. I do understand the statement that like, it's not going to be the best way to build maximum strength. It's not going to be the best way to build maximum power. Mm-hmm. But then the question becomes, does it have to be the sole part of your training? And like, it's one of those things where if all you do is ATG work, you're probably going to be limited in terms of maximum strength, maximum force development. If all you do is Joel Seedeman style eccentric isometrics, you're probably going to be limited in terms of mobility and capacity to move through full range.
So what we're saying is you take the two, you smash them together, and you do a mixture of ATG and Joel Seedeman, and you will be the ultimate athlete.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the whole thing of expose yourself to intensity, expose yourself to range, expose yourself to volume.
Don't try and be nuanced about this, Zab.
I'm
making a completely unbased, wild statement here. I just want you to back me up, and we can tell everyone that all they need to do is Joel Seedeman and ATG together, and they'll be great.
Sounds excellent.
Cool.
I reckon you should sell that as your squat program.
Matt's
doing a squat program at the moment.
Oh yeah, I'm doing a squat program at the moment. Funnily enough, there are some ATG movements and there are some Joel Seedeman-esque movements.
When you say Joel Seedeman-esque movements, what you basically mean is that there are some pause reps.
Pause reps and isometrics.
Excellent.
But yeah, basically just like you said, expose yourself to range, expose yourself to maximum force, just cover the bases, and you can't go too far wrong.
Exactly. Train eccentrics, train deceleration, because that will allow you to be better at acceleration. Jump around, do crazy athletic things.
Have fun
in the gym.
Yeah, and don't be
scared of movement.
Yeah, don't be scared of movement. I think that's the key thing, and again, that is one of the things that like I do really rate the ATG guy for, is although he tries to pretend like his way is the only way, he also doesn't say don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point where he goes, oh, don't lift heavy.
No.
Like, he just says, oh, I think you should do this. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Which is why I almost respect him a little bit more than I respect Joel Seedeman. Just simply from the fact that, like, he's selling his shit, and he's definitely trying to push people that way, but he doesn't go as far as to say, like, never do that.
Yeah.
So
no, I can appreciate that. I think that's a very valid statement. Cool.
So yeah.
Right. So yeah, don't be too tribal. Tribal is the other key message. Don't let yourself fall into a tribe. Don't be afraid of movement, and have fun in the gym. 3 key take homes for the podcast.
Be athletic as fuck.
And sign up to Matt's new squat program.
Yes.
If you want to get strong as hell.
Yeah, and have a really good looking squat and be able to do silly things with a bar. Anyway, let's leave it there.
I don't like the fact that looks so seductive. Like saying silly things with a bar and then practically winking at the camera is
I mean, someone did suggest the other day that I sell my squat program alongside like a free subscription to my OnlyFans, and that I might get more sign up. It's kind of depressing.
I feel like you need to set up an OnlyFans before you start doing that. But yeah,
I mean, I don't feel like I need to set up an OnlyFans. I feel like my marriage would end quite quickly.
I mean, it could literally just be you in your gym attire would be enough.
Yeah, but I still don't think that's an acceptable thing to do as a husband.
Yeah, absolutely valid. All right, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah.
We will see you next Monday,
where hopefully we'll be talking calisthenics with a very, very good calisthenics coach from Sweatbox. I'm not going to say who. You'll have to find out. Tune in.
Take care, guys.